guys, welcome back to ZR Chess. We are going over the Queen's Gambit series, episode 6. This is going to be a good one. She's got some good games here. We'll go ahead and start off with the beginning here. The first thing we see is a puzzle. She's training with this Grandmaster, is Benny, and he gives her this puzzle, and she solves it right away. And he says that's a really fast way to solve this puzzle because it's such a good hard puzzle. And when we look at it, it is kind of a hard puzzle. There's this white to move, and we got to figure out how to trap this enemy king and not let him be stalemated, and keep him from escaping as well and drawing out this game. So as white here, we go ahead and look and see if you can figure out by yourself. Pause the video. And so black in general, how many moves does he have? I mean, the king's here, so he can't move here. He can't move here, here, and here. The bishop's here, so he can't move here. He can't take the bishop. He can't take the knight. Can't move his own spot. He can move here. This is the one spot he can move to. Although another move he could have is moving here with the bishop. So he's got two moves here. And either one, could lead to other stuff, but he has two moves, which is the point here. So we want to make sure he makes the right one. Now, if we, for some reason, play a move that blocks off this, then it's going to be stalemate, or he'll have to take or something like that with the bishop. So we want to make sure that we drive him into a corner. So we don't want him going here, because from here he has means of escape by here or here, and he can try to run away. So what we're going to do instead is try to make his so we don't care if he goes here or if the bishop goes here. Either way, we're good, but we need to make him move, because if we try to block, or if we put him in check or try to block up this area, it's just going to draw things out. So we want it to be his turn in this scenario. So the way we can lose a turn is just by moving the king to d7. It's that simple, because now it's black's turn, and he still can't go to any of these squares. So he has to choose king here or bishop here. Well, king here doesn't work, because it immediately loses to knight d6. So knight d6, and coming is the pain, because the king has nowhere to go. King can go here, here, or here. Those are the three squares. So if he chooses to go, this looks kind of good, going to h6, right? Except that that's checkmate right there with f5. He can go to f8, which doesn't look as safe, and it's obviously not, because that's checkmate. Or he can try to get into the middle of things, back where he was, and once again, that is checkmate. So that doesn't help him at all. So going there with the king immediately loses, so he's going to want to go there with the bishop. And so going there with the bishop, remember, that was the only place the king could move, so now the king has 0 moves. The bishop can move, but the king can't move at all at this point. So still going to bring in this knight to d6, and he's threatening to go here and checkmate, and there's nothing black can do about it, because he can only move the bishop at this point. So wherever he moves the bishop, here, 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 white's going to come in and checkmate, because the knight is also attacking this spot. So that's the puzzle. It was kind of difficult. It's not as difficult as they make it seem in the show, I don't think, but it is. It's one you have to think about for sure. The quickest way to checkmate somebody, because there are plenty of ways to checkmate in this scenario. You can slowly draw it out and bring your pawn to the end, but that's the best, quickest way to do it. So we'll move on to her next game in the series. She is playing against Benny Watts and his two friends, one of which is Grandmaster, and they're playing blitz chess with each other, and she's playing all three of them at once. And one of the games we see, the only game we see of this, is actually the opera game that Paul Morphy played against Duke Carl and Count Isward. And I just murdered that name, but that's okay. I don't care. So this is the opera game she plays, and it's a fantastic, beautiful game. I just posted a video of it last week. Check it out on my channel and this link. And so it starts off with Beth, or Paul Morphy, plays e4, e5, and then we go into just kind of a normal opening, and then takes here, takes here in the center, and just trying to gain more center control, allows this take if black takes. White takes with the queen, doing fine. Yep, just how it went, and then the pawn takes. And she's eyeing down here with the queen, so the bishop comes out, going to go ahead and put some pressure on this king, threatening checkmate. So black's got to do something about it. Knight comes out to block that. Well, let's go ahead and put more pressure on it. Queen comes to the side. It's not checkmate, but it's certainly check, and it'll lead to mate with the queen going to e6. So the queen comes out to protect this square. Knight comes out to garner an attack, start an attack on the king. And the pawn comes up to predictably stop the knight from going where it wants to go to get in an attack on the king. Now the bishop's going to come out. It's pinning this knight, and one of the biggest things it's doing is allowing this castle. Castling long puts the rook on a great open file. So the pawn comes down to attack the bishop, and instead of moving the bishop out of the way, this is what's crazy about this game. Paul Morphy goes ahead and just says, I'm going to eat that pawn with my knight, and I'm going to let you take me, and let's go with check. And this is beautiful, beautiful game, because after the knight protects, he goes ahead and castles long, like we were talking about. Now we've got a rook with an open file. We're down a piece, but the king's not castling anytime soon. Look at this bishop. It's an ugly bishop. Can't go anywhere. This king is trapped at the moment until this queen or pawn moves. And we have a great attack going on at the moment already. So he brings the rook over to help protect this spot and goes ahead and takes with the rook. Now, taking with the knight wouldn't be ideal because the bishop's going to take the queen. So he really wants to take with this rook. Probably not the queen either because he loses the queen. So he really needs to take with that rook. And then rook to d1, and the rook can't go anywhere because he's pinned. So this put a lot of pressure on this kingside attack right now. And they're going to have to figure something out. So the queen comes over, breaking the pin, and hoping maybe to exchange queens and defuse the situation. Not going to happen. Bishop takes, and it's forking the king and queen, so the knight really has to take. And then once the knight takes, it's all over because queen with check, and then the knight takes, and then boom, it's checkmate with the rook. It's a beautiful game. It was actually played back about 100 years ago or so, maybe two. And it's just an incredible game. I suggest you looking it up on your own. But so she goes ahead and plays that, and then she gets into the tournament. Now she's playing this against fictional character Alec Berglund, and it doesn't show us anything except for this position. But this position we can still look at it and analyze it for ourselves. So we can go ahead and see here that as white, that's playing white, she is just doing very well. She's not up any material, but she is doing fine. I mean, we see these double pawns here, but it's not a problem because rook b1 gives us an half open file. And then he's really only got his knight developed, whereas she has 3 pieces developed and another one coming on the way, maybe 2. And he has to still develop these before he can even castle, because let's be honest, castle and kingside does not look so pretty right now after this queen attack over here. We've even got a bishop coming over, possibly a trade here. We got a trade here that's possible, and then white will be up a pawn and hold more of the center. There's a lot going on here, but we can see clearly that Beth is in a preferable position, and she easily pulls out the win on that. So we go to the next game. This one shows us Beth Harmon versus her opponent, and this is also another game played in real life. Yuri, yeah, we're not going to read that. So goes ahead and starts off, and we get into the Benoni here. Benoni's a good opening for black. It can be really fun to play. It can be really difficult to play if you don't know what you're doing. I've been trying to learn a little recently, but it's fun, definitely, to play. So pawn comes out, trying to get this pawn out of the way here. The point of this pawn structure is to be in black's business and stop the pawns from coming up without an attack. Pawn comes up, trying to trade off pawns. Knight comes up, protecting. And so we get this kind of nice center position for white and kind of an outskirt position for black. So going into fianchetto here, it looks like bishop's coming out, developing, preparing a castle. Castles. Rook coming in, taking over the semi-open file, attacking the pawn twice now. So white has to do something about that. Beth has to do something about that. So the queen comes up, protecting the pawn. And then this is threatening to go b5. So going b5 wouldn't be the end of the world, but it is going to cause some problems for white. Because if she allows him to go b5, then b4 might be coming, attacking the knight, and you got a lot of problems here with the pawn storm, especially the king's on this side. Pawn storm isn't going to hurt black at all, so this could really be an issue for her. So instead, she goes ahead and stops it with a4, and then after the knight comes out, goes ahead and bring this here, and looking to capitalize on this. The knight blocks the queen from protecting this pawn, so the queen comes out and protects the pawn again. Knight comes back, hoping to go here to c4. From c4, this would be a nice little outpost. It could attack here. It could attack here eventually. It's just a really good position for the knight to be at. There's no set plan or anything, but moving her pieces into the correct positions to do something later makes the most of it. So he goes ahead and stops that. Knight here, and if she goes ahead and does that, he's just going to exchange. Pawn comes up, blocking a bishop coming down, or a knight coming down, or something of the sort, which, and then the knight comes back, bishop comes over, kind of attacking, and kind of, so the pawn's going to come up, and, so that's what this bishop move was. The bishop comes back so that this pawn move can happen and kick the knight away. So once the knight retreats to, looks like only here is the only valid option, then she'll have better center control, a rook that's pushing pawn forward, and she won't have a problem with here anymore. The knight can come in if it wants to. Actually, the bishop could come in too. If this pawn wasn't on the board, it'd be great. So the bishop comes back, pawn comes down, attacking this. Now he's got 2 attackers on this, and we've got still 3 defenders, so no big deal. Goes ahead and takes, leaving, this isn't open because the knight's protecting it. So, goes ahead and takes the knight. So, the knight's protecting this bishop, so black decides, I'm going to take the knight. After he takes, I can take the bishop. No big deal. So, it's a good plan, just wasn't thought out all the way through. It's good to see these tactics where you can take out a defender and then take out what you want. But in this case, Beth goes ahead and takes this pawn, threatening to take this knight with check and fork. So goes ahead and takes back with the pawn, and then goes ahead and takes back with the pawn, and then after he takes the bishop, queen comes in with check, and this just wrecks his whole game. The black king has no more defenders here. I mean, no more pawn defenders at least. The rook came up a little bit. He's got an attack on the knight, but this attack is so very deadly. So the king moves to the side, and then the rook comes in, hoping to trade material. Black goes ahead and trades material, and it's all over the crime. The knight moves out of the way, and knight check e8. Fantastic move. This is so beautiful. She thought way well ahead on this. And so the point is, black can't move anywhere else. He has no options. It's a forced take. So once he takes the rook, queen g8 check. Now, this is where black resigned in the movie, in the show. And this is why he resigned. He only has a few moves. He can move here and here. So either way, let's say he moves here. We're going to bring the bishop up. No, I'm sorry. We're going to go ahead and take this knight. And then he can't move anywhere still, and then check. And then the only block is a computer move, and then checkmate. And it works the same way if instead he chose to move here. It's just check, and then, you can do a computer move with a knight blocking or something like that, and it just ends up the same way in checkmate. Fantastic ending to a good game. This rook sacrifice, I think, is really beautiful. So then there's the last game she plays against Borgoth, the big antagonist of the show, and she goes out drinking the night before, and she gets a little tipsy or whatever. She get more than that. She gets drunk. She wakes up in a bath, and she doesn't play her best because of that, and it kind of goes into that. So this is her playing against Borgoth, and she is white playing the Sicilian, playing against the Sicilian defense. He goes ahead, and this is normal Sicilian opening. He plays the knight off. This represents the knight off. What it does is it blocks white from using this square with either a bishop or a knight and doing the canal attack. So bishop comes out, attacking. And these are all just basic moves here, pretty much, that are, this is an interesting one. So the queen comes over, attacking this, and he castles and protects. The bishop comes over, which a lot of times is a decent move, because we're threatening checkmate. If this knight wasn't here, it would be fantastic. The pawn would, have to move, and then we could trade off with the rook. But the knight is there, so he goes back, and he just protects this pawn. So she brings the knight out. Good move, getting in the center, and they're both kind of developing here. Goes ahead and trades off knights, and putting a lot of pressure on this pawn here in the center. One pawn versus two pawns in the center. Not great for white, especially since this isn't linked to anything. Might be a good idea to bring this up, so that's what she does. And then we got a little pawn storm coming over here. So the knight comes back to avoid that. And the bishop has to retreat here. That's the only move for it. So the bishop is not being utilized here at all. It's doing nothing on this whole file, especially after that. It's just a wasted bishop. He's going to have to move that up and then there so that she can actually utilize that. That would be a good bishop. If it came here to b1, and then these could both be moved, it's attacking here. Maybe the queen come in and attack. Not a bad bishop at all. But she doesn't have time for that because then the queen takes. And the bishop comes back down so that she can move her queen without getting attacked. Knight comes out, and then out again. So we're pretty much just moving our pieces around as white, and black is actually bringing up an attack here with the rooks, moving his pieces to great places, and she's just kind of moving her pieces around, trying to figure something out, trying to make an attack. This right here is an interesting move, bringing your center defender on the king out to try to pawn storm. So doesn't end up working. The bishop comes out, and then trying to push the queen away, and then trying to push in the center for something. Pawn takes, rook takes, and then the rook's coming out, willing to trade. She declines trading, which is probably good. Maybe a good idea on her part. It kind of would also diffuse the situation, negate the attack the more you trade off, but she is kind of not looking so great here. Black seems to have more open space on this side. She doesn't have great protection on her king, so trading might not be the best thing for her since black is winning. Bishop comes out, wanting to trade again, refusing. Now this bishop is on a decent diagonal now. Maybe she can come up with something out of that. Pawn coming up to stop the queen from eyeing down on h2 again. It's hurting a defender. It was defending this pawn. Doesn't look the best. And then this pawn comes up. So this is all we see of the game that it shows us, and then it skips to the end. After this, we see them playing, but we don't actually see the pieces. And then it jumps to this position here, where she plays a few more moves from this position and then resigns. And this is also not a great position for her. Her king is completely exposed. She's got a queen. Whose turn is this? This is black's turn. So after trading here, it just doesn't look great. She's down a whole minor piece. She's got this pawn on the side, but it's going to get eaten up immediately. No, it's not because of that bishop. It's going to be eaten up eventually because black has an extra piece. So it just doesn't look great for her, and we end up figuring out that she does lose this game. So that is it. That's all the positions for this one. I can't wait to go into episode 7. It's going to be the final episode for the whole series. I know there's going to be great games in that. We get to see the final game. And so I hope to see you guys next time on that. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe. Let me know how I can do better and what kind of videos you want to see. I started a Facebook group also, a Facebook page. Try to get some interaction. Get your guys' feel about everything, requests, how you feel about chess. Hit me up. So good talking with you guys. Have a good one.